we're back. This might be a short part because I might get interrupted. But anyways, the early afternoon sun trickles into my apartment, fighting through the storm clouds to arrive on my face. I push myself up with a yawn. I can't say I feel very refreshed. Those events last night, the fight between Dominic and Rex, the vampires, I was hoping it would be a dream, but it sticks too vividly in my mind like a bad taste that won't leave my mouth. But I feel like I could draw some amazing vampire shit right now. It'd probably land me on the cover of a teen goth magazine though, but still half asleep, I mumble to myself as I put on the coffee machine. It's true. All this excitement's definitely inspired me a little, though I'm also too on edge to really channel it right now. Dominic. His offer from last night still echoes in my ears. I can't believe he really wants to help me. Maybe it's just a bad prank and he's not going to show up tonight after all. That'd make more sense anyway. I have a hard time believing a guy like him would just help me out with the kindness of his heart. But after yesterday, I really don't know what to believe anymore. I spend the rest of my day on a few commissions. Wow, I clicked too fast. Alright, let's go. In the last couple hours before work, I decided to draw the new picture filling my head, a looming shadowy figure in an alleyway. I make sure the light is focused on the figure's bare teeth, using the memory of Rex's fangs as reference. It turns out surprisingly well, almost too well. When I get ready to leave, the sight of the darkening sky outside makes me tense. I'd better hurry to the diner before it gets too late, and I hope that Dominic keeps his word. Luckily, nothing happens on the way to my shift, and I flick on the diner's lights with a sigh of relief. This crap is doing a real number on my stress levels, I'll say. Muttering to myself, I switch the sign to open after a little bit of prep work and the night finally begins. Who is that? What? Yeah, I'll have just fries. Yeah. Coming right up. Just the normal drunk customers. Hey dude, can I get an ice cream frothy thing? You mean a milkshake? Yeah dude, a milkshake. That's totally what I meant. How'd you know? Average high as a kite teenagers. Nothing out of the ordinary. Not yet. Occasionally I glimpse a shape moving outside the diner's window, although it's probably just a random passerby. For some reason though, I have an uneasy feeling. It's like I'm being watched, and not in the comforting guardian angel way either. At last, my shift comes to an end, but there's no sign of Dominic. I want to head home soon, but I really don't feel safe going outside. If worse comes to worse, maybe I could just sleep in the diner overnight. Storage crates don't make great pillows, but they're better than coffins. At the moment the door swings open and the sight of a new customer interrupts my thoughts. Hello, welcome to the... Dominic? Sure enough, the tall and intimidating figure before me is the same one I spoke to last night. When he sees my shocked reaction, however, Dominic's expression darkens somewhat. Why do you look so surprised? I told you I'd come. There's a very slight, wounded hint in his voice, as if my lack of trust in him makes him unhappy. Sorry, I'm a bit too jaded to believe in knights in shining armor. Although I guess I could make an exception for knights in baggy jackets. Now I feel guilty for doubting him, even though I think it was pretty justified, all things considered. Are you ready to go? His eyes softened faintly after my apology, but there's still a tense look on his face. He's probably thinking about what'll happen if we get caught by other vampires. Well, he's not the only one who's worried. I'm ready. You want a cup of coffee or something before we leave? It's not exactly blood or anything, but geez, that sounded stupid. Should have just kept my mouth shut. I'm fine, thanks. Dominic gazes at me for a moment, the corners of his lips curling ever so slightly upward. Then he turns towards the door, beckoning for me to follow. After I grab my things, we head outside onto the dark street. It's pretty deserted this time of night, so the only people on the sidewalk are just me and Dominic. He moves at a pretty fast clip, his eyes darting around us warily, flicking toward any kind of movement, whether it's a stray moth or a fluttering plastic bag. I can't help but notice how close he is to my side, too. His arm brushes against mine every couple of seconds. A little embarrassed, I shift a couple inches away, but he ends up closing that gap again a few moments later. You're gonna fall off the sidewalk. At his amused comment, I realize I've drifted so close to the curb that I'm almost in the street. Well, if I move any further to the right, I'll crash into his side. So, do you have any family around San Fran? When I try to change the subject, Dominic shoots me a sharp look. Yeesh, did I stumble on a touchy topic? You don't have to answer if you don't want to. I mean, it's gotta be complicated with the whole vampire thing. The East Coast. He murmurs flatly, avoiding my gaze for a moment. They're out on the East Coast. They don't know where I am. He sounds guilty, as if he ran away without saying anything. Did he come out here to get away from his family then? Or maybe he was just trying to protect them, like he's trying to protect me now. It can't be helped. It must be hard. It must be hard. You must miss them. How about their words sick about you if they don't already think that you're dead? After a brief pause, Dominic nods. Can't help but think he looks terribly lonely, shadows grooving deeply into his tired features. I'm sorry, I can't really put myself in your shoes, but I know it must be hard. He offers me a faint smirk, although there's nothing happy about it. Don't see a point to self-pity. It's just how things are now. Dominic's eyes drift up to the light, polluting sky as we walk along, and I follow his gaze. There are no stars, just dark, moody clouds that look like billowing smoke. My brother's getting married soon. Oh, how'd you find out? Saw it in the newspaper. His broad shoulders slump a little, and even though his voice remains steady, there's no way for you to go. Dominic shakes his head tightly, closing his eyes. I can't face him like this. He sounds so bitter that it makes my chest hurt a little. I have a feeling that he doesn't get any joy out of being a vampire. Whatever powers it must give, the costs are probably a lot worse. Maybe you could phone him, send him an anonymous note? Not the same as being there, though. It is it? Damn. I frown, trying to think of some alternative for him, but I doubt anything replaces an in-person meeting. When I glance over to him, I notice Dominic watching me with a smile. Wasn't he just brooding a second ago? Did I say something stupid again? To my shock, Dominic reaches out with one of his large hands suddenly ruffling my hair. His fingers tussle through the strands, musing them up playfully. Is this supposed to be messing? I don't know. The touch of his hands is softer than I'd expect. I can't even believe it's the same hand that was swinging punches at Rex last night. Rex. He pulls back before long, though, and I hurry to smooth out my messy hair. Where did that come from? Jeez, warn that guy first. Don't worry about it. Dominic shakes his head, and his smile fades soon afterwards. He really doesn't stay bright for longer than a few seconds, does he? Like the sun flickering out between clouds. You're different. Huh? Here he goes again, saying stuff out of the blue. How am I supposed to keep up? Yesterday, Rex jumped you because you had a different scent. A different scent? Well, hold on, what do you mean? Hesitating, Dominic averts his eyes to one side, narrowing them with uncertainty. It's something special. It makes your blood sweeter to us, but if you return, then... Dominic suddenly freezes. I stop beside him, glancing around in confusion. Then what? Dominic, what's going... Ah! The next second, he grabs my hand and breaks into a sprint. Completely baffled, I run with him as fast as I can, and we dash into a nearby alley at a top speed. Dominic, what the hell's going on? Behind us. Dominic's voice growls out urgently over the sound of our footsteps. When I throw a glance over my shoulder, there are several figures hurtling towards us, one of them on all fours. Hey, where are you guys going? Come back. A familiar sing-along voice calls out to us gleefully, echoing in the alleyway. Rex? Ignore them. My eyes go wide as I recognize the voice, but Dominic immediately grips my hand harder. Are you guys on a date? Didn't even invite me. Hey, Dom, don't be selfish. Rex's mocking words ring out behind us as we keep running, taking every twist and turn we can. It's hard for me to keep up with Dominic, whose long legs and powerful body propel him forward with an incredible speed. You can't get away from me, baby, and catch that scent from miles away. Come on, Dom, share him with us. You want to keep him for yourself, don't you? Greedy bastard. Dominic grits his teeth together, his eyes flashing with visible anger. A cold sweat breaks out on my back as Rex taunts us. Dominic. No, Dominic's different from them. He's not keeping me around for that. There's no way. Quick, inside. Suddenly, Dominic shoves me through the side door of a building. I stumble through the darkness, but he pulls my hand to tug me further in. Where are we? Huh? The dimly lit space we emerge into is a club? Blend in. He leans down to hiss in my ear, brushing his lips against it so that I can hear his voice over the loud music. Without missing a beat, Dominic guides me onto the dance floor, weaving through the throngs of people. I glance worriedly over my shoulder to see if Rex and the others are following, but I can't make out anything in the dark. But when I turn my back, I realize Dominic isn't pulling me along anymore. Instead, he's facing me with his blue eye glimmer faintly in the flashing lights. Dominic, aren't we going to... And just like that, he starts to curl his arm around my waist, tugging me toward him. Ooh. My first reaction is to pull away, but I realize what he's doing after a few seconds. He wants to dance here so that the other vampires will lose our scent in the middle of all these people. They probably can attack us in this place if they do find us. I guess it's a pretty smart plan. Although my cheeks start to flush a little from our sudden closeness, I hesitantly slide my arms around Dominic, grasping at the fabric of his jacket. He's really tall. And had his eyes always been that blue? They're so clear that I can see myself inside them almost. You have to dance, not just stare. He murmurs to me, his deep voice reverberating in my ears over the heavy bass. Oh, yeah. Sorry, it's been a while since I did all this. I awkwardly start to move a little with the music, avoiding Dominic's gaze. I feel like he's enjoying this a lot more than he should, considering the situation. The club's so packed with people that it's practically a zoo, but after a while I don't notice them as much. My heartbeat should be slowing down now that we stopped running, yet it's still pounding a mile a minute. Dominic doesn't bother glancing around for the other vampires at all. Instead, he just watches me. His eyes seem to glow a little in the dark, gazing at my face with an unusually intense look. You're gonna make me self-conscious watching me like that. I hope you're staring at me because my hair's on point, not because I look like dinner. My mutter is swallowed up by the music, but there's a chance Dominic heard me because his lips curl into a sly grin. The tips of his fangs glimmer faintly when they catch the light, simultaneously deadly and beautiful. Normally I hate clubs, but I'd be lying if I said this wasn't sort of fun. There's a chance Rex and the others are inside watching us, but it's hard for me to think about that when Dominic squeezes my hips, pressing against me to the beat of the music. To this music, though? Okay. But really, how the hell did this turn out to be some kind of weird date? It really doesn't feel like we're just acting to throw out the vampires anymore. That or Dominic deserves an Oscar. Shit, I didn't intend for things to end up like this. You want a drink? Dominic casually leans in to murmur a question in my ear. No, I'm fine, thanks. Man, now it seriously feels like a date. An awkward, spontaneous date. Although, judging from Dominic's smirk at my flustered response, his only goal with that question was to make me embarrassed. He's got a sadistic streak to balance out his generosity, alright. How about you? You want a drink? Now that you mention it, my eyes widen when Dominic actually nods, a teasing light flashing in his eyes. Wait, he must mean, no, seriously? Only if you're offering them, I won't force you. He gently squeezes my waist, making me relax a little, but I still hesitate. Can I really trust him like this? Refuse, let him drink from me. Let him drink from you. Go ahead. Well, I'm a little curious about it, I'll admit. Just don't drain me dry, okay? That'd be a really shitty first date. For a split second, Dominic looks shocked, like he wasn't even expecting an answer. But before I know, he reaches out to grab me, tugging my body tightly against his chest. Just relax. His hot whispers fill my ear, as if he just flipped a switch, my anxiety starts to fade. It's hard to think about anything other than Dominic, and even when I close my eyes and tilt my head back, all I can envision is his eager gaze. Something sharp starts to tease along my skin, dragging a line from my collar to the side of my neck. I feel his wet tongue flickering out against a certain spot, followed by the brush of his lips. Then he pauses, and everything in the world seems to freeze for a moment. A stabbing pain shoots through my body, making my eyes water and my stomach do an awful backflip. My first instinct is to try to shove Dominic away, but I force myself to stay calm. And then, bit by bit, the pain begins to sweeten. Dominic. As he holds me tightly in his arms, burying his face against my neck, I start to feel a little dizzy. My skin's growing hotter and hotter, and an unusual heat bubbles at the base of my spine. Sweet. Somehow I managed to hear Dominic's low growl, but it feels like his voice is almost coming from inside my mind. The pounding bass fades far into the distance, all I can hear and feel is Dominic, his fangs buried in me as he suckles hungrily at my flesh. This is complete surrender. If he wanted to, he could drain me dry right now and no one would notice. It's too dark and crowded. But I don't feel scared. My heart's pounding a mile a minute, but all I can think about is getting myself down. Pause. More, and more. When Dominic finally pulls back, licking a red drop off his upper lip, I struggle to catch my breath. He must have noticed my reaction because he gives me a long, feral smirk and brushes his fingertips against my throat. It was hard keeping a hold of myself, especially with you screaming against me like that. Can't have been that bad for you, huh? Shit. Acute embarrassment makes my lightheadedness vanish, and I know my face has to be the same color as a cherry. Sorry. If I was jerking around or anything, I hope you got enough. I'm not sure that's even possible. As the last traces of that incredible sensation gradually fade away, I can't help but feel happy at Dominic's reaction. He pulls me into another dance, and I notice his eyes are burning brighter. His usual cool expression now warm and eager. Even his skin feels a little hot, like part of him is alive again, and there's something strangely bittersweet about that thought. We dance for what feels like hours afterwards, though the same time it passes in the blink of an eye. When I start to get a little tired, I lean against Dominic's chest, and a pleased smile briefly curl on his lips. Finally, just as it's getting close to dawn, we reluctantly separate and make our way to the exit. It's still dark when we emerge onto the street, although probably not for much longer, with the music now muffled by concrete walls and awkward silence drifts between us. Let's go. Right. Shit, I entirely forgot that he was supposed to be taking me home. That was the whole point of meeting up, wasn't it? So how did that just happen? I bite my lip as we head down the sidewalk again, but Dominic seems completely at ease. This guy, I guess he's not even worried about the other vampires will come after us. Am I the weird one for being so flustered about everything? We end up making it to my apartment building without an incident. When we reach the door, Dominic stops, so I come to a halt in front of him. Thanks. It's fine. With that casual response, he starts to turn away. Hey, wait! When I hastily call out to him, Dominic pauses to look back at me. Were you planning on coming back to the diner tomorrow night? You don't have to or anything, but... He tilts his head to one side, quirking an eyeball slightly. I said I'd help you, didn't I? He sounds puzzled, as if that was only something natural. It probably sounds like I'm questioning his kindness, but after tonight's chase, I wouldn't blame him for wanting to keep his distance. I just wasn't sure how long you would... never mind. My response trails off into an awkward mutter as I avert my gaze, grimacing. As long as you need me. Dominic's words sound unusually gentle, so much that I look up to him in surprise. But he's already turning around again, starting to walk away with his hands shoved in his pockets. This time I just watch his tall figure gradually head into the distance until finally he disappears around the corner. His parting words feel like a dream, and I almost have to wonder if I didn't mishear them. As long as you need me. Seriously, what a weird guy. I muttered to myself in disbelief while climbing the stairs, unable to contain a smile. Unlike last night, a warm feeling bubbles in my chest when I reach my apartment. I don't understand Dominic at all, but deep down I can see that he has a good heart. It's the last thing I'd expect from someone who's supposed to be a blood-sucking monster. Guess you really can't judge a book by its cover, huh? This time, when I throw myself onto the bed, it doesn't take long for drowsiness to overtake me. As I slip into an unconsciousness, the last image I see is Dominic's bright blue eyes glittering warmly in the dark, swallowing me in their endless depths. Didn't know where that sentence was going for a second. And so began my new bizarre routine. Every night, Dominic would show up at the diner right as I'd be getting ready to close. After our encounter with Rex, he was a lot more cautious. We would take hidden alleyways and paths through the abandoned buildings and a new mini-adventure each time. There were a couple of close calls, but we managed to avoid getting spotted by roaming vampires just barely. Neither of us ever speak about what happened in the club. It's not like our relationship was awkward, but every time I think about that, the way we danced, my face starts to feel hot. I know it was just a spur-of-the-moment thing, probably meaningless, but no matter how hard I try, I can't forget the look in his eyes back then. Wow, time to leave already? I must have really been spacing out. Today marks a week since Dominic, or Dom, as I started calling him, first offered to escort me. But this time I decided to man up and ask him if he wants to come up to my apartment tonight. Just for a drink and a chat or something. He's not very talkative, but I think he might enjoy the company and I'd like to get to know him better. It's so easy to forget Dom's a vampire, but the sense of loneliness he carries reminds me of a cold, solitary life he's forced to live in the night. He stays away from his clan, and I can tell he misses his family more than anything. From what he's told me, I'm the only friend he has here. I want to help ease that loneliness for him, even if it's just a tiny bit. And we're going to end it right there, folks. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back.